You are listening to the Glenabbey podcast. My name is Keith Jackson and I'll be talking with Joanne, Dean and Robin about what they do at Prison Fellowship, one of Glenabbey Church's partners. So, welcome. Great to see you today. Thank you very, very much for coming along and sharing a little bit, both of yourselves and what you do with Prison Fellowship. So very much in keeping with what we have done in our little series of podcasts, we're going to start with a question that everybody's delighted to get. Tell us a little bit about a book, a film, a podcast, or maybe even a Google search that you have made recently. And certainly doesn't have to be heavy or intellectual. But if it is, that's okay too. So who am I going to pick first? I'm going to go ladies first. Joanne.
Okay, thanks. So I was just thinking about this. I've started reading a new devotional called Daily Joy, and it's by a lady called Lydia Brownback. And there's lots of different really influential Christian women who've written in it and shared in it. So it's been something that's really encouraged me recently. So yeah.
Okay, and a top recommendation, okay,
a top recommendation,
for
absolutely.
Anybody listening in that can go for that. Okay, go across the table. We'll go to Dean next. Dean.
I'm not a big reader, but I've picked up the book George Foreman. I'm a boxing fanatic. So I got his autobiography. It was actually coming to the prison. Yes. So I read it over a few lunches. And it's just about his story and his life. He's a Christian and how at the end of one of his fights, he basically had an encounter with Christ.
Yes.
And he gave up the boxing, became a minister. And then at the age of, in his 40s, he came back to boxing and ended up becoming the oldest heavyweight champion
of the world.
46 and a half. He became the heavyweight champion of the world. So yeah, very interesting book, so it was.
I've just obviously missed that, but only slightly to be able to sort of go back. You know, age has maybe just defeated me on that front, but clearly that's the only thing that would have gotten away, Dean. But anyway, yeah. Okay, enough of that. I'll move very swiftly on. Robin, last but not least.
Okay.
Same question to you.
Oh man, maybe not as riveting, but it was a need to Google how to get rid of leatherbacks. I was told officially, but basically Daddy Longlegs is that it decided to destroy my lawn.
Okay.
And how do I get rid of these stupid things? Because the crows were having a massive feast on my front lawn, and somebody said, no, you've got leatherbacks. And so I thought, how do I get rid of them? So I ended up going off to do a Google search, and then how do you kill them, and how do you then, more importantly, how do you repair the damage they've done? Because they basically destroyed half the lawn. They've just literally just sliced the roots of all the grass.
Oh dear.
Yes, so it wasn't quite, not as spiritually and creative, but it was certainly one that I thought, I need to find out what to do with this.
Absolutely. I'm sure if you wanted to keep harmony back home, Robin, you needed to work hard on that and get that one sorted.
Sometimes there's things you need to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll go in a similar order anyway, if that's all right, just for our next little phase, which is just to find out a little tiny bit about you and your route into being involved at Prison Fellowship, which is a common denominator that you all have here today. So again, I'll start, Joanne, with you, if that's okay. Just tell us a little bit on that front, if you would, please.
Okay. So my name's Joanne. I've been working with Prison Fellowship for just over 6 years now. And before that, I was a youth worker. And I suppose I was brought up in a Christian family. My dad's Presbyterian minister, so I came to faith at a young age, and then really decided that I really wanted to follow Jesus for myself when I was a teenager. And so, I went to Bible college, and then ended up as a youth worker, and then ended up going to Prison Fellowship. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you very much. That's lovely to hear a little bit about the background. Dean, what about you?
I'm with Prison Fellowship 7 years now. My background is promotional films and done some community work with some of the community groups, producing videos for them to do with the youth and say problems that they're having in the community, like knife crime and alcohol. We would get funding and produce videos with the local community groups and work along with the police and stuff. And then also on the other side, it would be promotional videos for companies. I also worked in shorts for almost 20 years too, building planes. My background again was my grandmother was a Christian, and when I would have stayed with her, it was only Christian in my family really, and she would have taught me how to pray. Now she passed when I was about 11, but I always still said the same prayers that my granny taught me. So she was a big influence on me, and I just, like I say, I think it was thanks to her. I was always sort of curious about God and find out more. So I would have got some books and read my kids' Bibles and stuff as a grown up. But I think she was a big influence on me with being a Christian.
Okay, lovely to hear of grandmother's influence as you've grown up. Obviously, you've got a good skill set there as well with those sort of the media. All the media things as well. So thank you for sharing that. And funny, a Shorts background, would have to say. I think it was Colin Barr in our Monkstown Village Initiatives one. I think he'd about 16 years as well. I think he was sharing. So whenever we scratch below the surface, I think a common denominator of a bit of time working at Shorts seems to be fairly familiar anyway. So last but not least, I'll come across to Robin and just ask those posts. The same type of question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just on your route into prison fellowship, please, Robin.
Okay, so I'm married to Joy. We have 2 girls. Mm-hmm. One of them married and getting on with life, and all over in England. She's doing the medical stuff, so she's over there. So basically, we're back home alone again. Mm-hmm. But grew up just outside Cookstown.
Yes.
I grew up in a good home, not a Christian home.
Okay.
But part of a local church, which we were either taken to or sent to on a weekly basis. And then as things progressed, we had a fortnight's mission in 78. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that mission, one of the Sunday school teachers actually spoke to me then. I said, Ron, what do you think of all of this? Mm-hmm. I said, well, I've done nothing but think about it for the first week of meetings.
Okay.
And he said, well, why don't you go and speak to the minister? And I went round to speak. It was Dr. John Girvan. I went round to speak to him, and who was sitting in the room but my mum. And so Mummy came to faith the same evening, and during the remainder of that second week, another 9 folk in our family came to faith. So
what a difference that's made, Robin.
A tremendous change in a family that was nominally church connected.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, wow, at that point. So for me, that was the beginning of an incredible change in my life. Okay. I didn't have any Christian friends. We sort of had 3 or 4 other young folk came to faith in church. Mm-hmm. And a lady whose name is well known, Maud Kells, was also a member of that church. And she said to me, now, what are you going to do? You need to learn about your faith. You need to go and find out about mission. And so she encouraged me to head away off to Scotland, a place called Kilcreggan, for a week in the summer. And so from that, obviously get a real enthusiasm just for mission work and missionary work. And not just to hear about, but actually physically get involved in doing stuff. So in that sense, my early years of Christian was very much around that. Another group was Young Life, involved in that, and about praying and equipping young Christians to reach out. And then later on, I got involved in the youth work of the church. I became very aware that there was an awful lot of young people skating about, and I didn't have all of the skills I felt necessary to try and lead these young folk. And so I headed off to Bible college in England, and during that time, then I was told I needed to do some mission work experience rather as I thought go back and earn money and pay bills. So for me, it was an interesting journey. From when I left Cookstown, I was working for Stewart Supermarket. I was one of their floating managers. I then went to Bible college to learn about youth work. I came back and I didn't do any more youth work. I got involved with prison fellowship. And that was 37 years ago. My word. So, bit of a journey.
Okay. Well, here, look, I'm going to delve next little phase. I think just I'll delve into your specific roles and responsibilities, I think, and what you get involved in anyway. So we'll head in that direction now. Okay. So, Joanne, we'll come round again to you. Haven't heard from you for a minute or two. So tell us a bit about just specifically what you are involved in then with Prison Fellowship. Just tell us a bit about what does your working life at Prison Fellowship look like?
Okay, so my job with Prison Fellowship is that I'm a prison worker. So we work in all of the prisons, but I'm based mostly in Hydebank, which is for all the women and young offenders in Northern Ireland. So I think a week can look very different depending on what's going on, but a lot of the time we spend a lot of our time just caring for people pastorally, walking alongside them, trying to help them, listen to them. That could be propped at the end of somebody's bed in a cell. It could be sitting in education. It could be going for a walk around the centre with permission, and all those kind of things. And it's just trying to provide support and care for the people that we come into contact with. And then we also run different programmes and different events during the week. So in Hydebank we have a ladies' Bible study called Life's Plan that meets on a Monday evening. So we run that. We run a football programme, but that's seasonal with the boys in Hydebank. So just today, even I was asked, Miss, when's the football? So it's coming around again soon. So we're excited about that. And then we also run Sycamore Tree courses across the prisons that we're responsible for teaching and delivering.
Okay. Who's going to tell me? You've mentioned Sycamore Tree, okay, so remember, who's going to mention a bit about, right, I'm going to go across to Dean. I'm going to ask you the same question just to begin with. What is it that you're involved in, just from a work perspective? And then, sure, lead us on to Sycamore Tree and whatever else you'd like to tell us about.
Very similar to what Joanne's saying. I'm in Maghaberry now full-time. Maghaberry, as of today, had 1,214 men in it, so it's busy. And as Joanne says, you can't plan a day. You go in the morning and this is what I'm going to do. It never happens. Okay. Because you can be walking the landings and somebody's just really struggling, you know. So that can throw you off in a different direction. But same as Joanne, we would run life plan groups and also Sycamore Tree, as you spoke about, which is a restorative justice course. It runs for 6 weeks. And what it is to let the guys and see, again, we always explain it's not a guilt trip. It's just to let the guys see just the ripple effect that we talk about of crime and their crime, again, and how it affects not just the victims, but what about the victim's family? What about the community? What about the prisoners' families? You know, the ripple effect is huge. So it runs for 6 weeks. Halfway through it, we'll bring a victim in. The victim will speak about what happened with her crime and how it affected her and her family. And that's usually a very powerful week because that's when the guys really get to hear it and see it. What happens afterwards is the guys will get to speak and ask their questions. And the woman's son was murdered. So she would come in. The guys don't know this. They don't know what the crime is. But when she starts to speak, you can hear a pin drop. And as Joanne will tell you, sometimes these guys are having to wipe their eyes, you know, and it's an emotional week, but it's a powerful week. That's when the penny really drops with these guys. And then on week 6, what we would do is it's called an act of restitution. It's where they would write a letter to their victim. Now, it doesn't go to the victim, but it's if you met your victim, what would you like to say? And some of the week 6s, what you hear, again, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to get touched. Some of these are heartbreaking, the stories, you know. And again, some of these guys are in there for such, you know, simple reasons, from looking down at a phone when he shouldn't have and knocking someone down and killing them. You know, it's a privilege to be part of Sycamore Tree and just to watch the journey from week 1 to week 6, because the change is phenomenal. And we've been running these, I think Sycamore's been running with Prison Fellowship about 13 years. I've been running them about 7 years. But out of every course I've ran, I've had nothing but positive comments from the guys when they leave it. They're all saying, thank you so much. And again, one of the guys who 5 years he's been in prison, and he was saying, you know, Sycamore really made me go back to the crime, he says, which was really uncomfortable, but I needed to do it. He says it really helped me doing that. So again, that's what it's about. Not a guilt trip. It's just about raising awareness and maybe trying to break that cycle, you know, of them coming back into prison. So yeah, it's a powerful course, and the guys are picking up on it. And we've got lists of people that want to do it. Again, not for any other reason, just that it's a real good course, you know. And yeah, it's very good.
Brilliant. And you two take that course together, Joanne, don't you? You both?
No, we teach them individually.
Okay.
In different establishments, and that creates a wee bit of healthy competition, doesn't it, Dean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You can get a level 1 or a level 2. Level 2's top marks.
Yes, okay.
So Joanne and I are seeing who can get the And
the top marks.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
At the minute, I have a bit of catching up to do.
Very great.
Joanne sitting having a bit of a quiet gloat. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
possibly there, Dina,
Yeah.
just at the moment. Okay, well, thank you very much for just sharing a bit about your work at this stage. I'll go to Robin next because Robin, I know you have a different role within Prison Fellowship. Maybe explain a little bit about what that is, or give a little bit of an overview of Prison Fellowship as well, please.
Okay, so when I joined Prison Fellowship, I joined as a volunteer. I was helping out with children's work, helping out with summer activities, Christmas activities. I then joined staff in 88 as a field worker, which basically was some of the stuff that these guys were doing in prison, but it also at that time included working with families, it also included aftercare, it also included a host of other things that just came onto something in the job description called other duties. That a very healthy line in any job description. So, but from that, I love the work. I love the people I work with. I love the opportunity to get alongside them, and I suppose the journey into it was unclear. I had very definitely got. I believe God gave me a verse out of Revelation 3:8. I said, "Before you an open door which no man can shut." I got that piece. As the door I took to be the prison door, etc., etc. But then there came the opportunity to consider taking responsibility for the running of the ministry. And I was only a young cub at that point. My two predecessors had been in their mid to late 50s, early 60s in leadership. Here was me sitting at 30, and it was a very different equation, let's say. So anyway, I applied and was successful, and then it came to the point where I was given the responsibility of running Prison Fellowship Northern Ireland, and it has been an absolute delight to see how God has taken the ministry forward. It's not about me. It's not about what I've done, but I can assure you the people God has brought to us, and you've got two of them here today, and if it was any other member of the staff team, it would be exactly the same. God has brought us people who we thought on a job description or an application form following a job description, they had skills and abilities. They bring far, far more than we could ever imagine. And so for me, my duties basically are to support, encourage, manage, direct, lead, build relationship with management in the Prison Service, Department of Justice, across the board, really trying to extend the role and reach of Prison Fellowship. And in so many ways, we have gone from a Bible study in a prison to actually involving ourselves in the whole Sycamore Tree story. And Sycamore Tree has become a really big thing for the Department of Justice and Northern Ireland Prison Service. And I'm thrilled because I believe it does help to cause men and women and young folk to actually think about where they've been. One man told me a way back after when we completed Sycamore Tree in the early days, he said, "I'm serving a life sentence." And he says, "These walls have allowed me to hide." Sycamore Tree has literally brought it all back to me, and I've had to face up to it, and I now know I need to face up to it. And in so many ways, everything that we're doing is about offering hope, a new beginning. Sycamore Tree starts that journey for some, takes it on where some of them are at, and our hope and our prayer would be that it'll go further. As far as we've been able to take it, we think there's more. There's opportunity for actually sitting down, as obviously if victims are willing to consider it, to actually meet the person who's committed the crime. And that would be understandably difficult. But our experience in talking with some of the folk that have come to us who are victims of crime, it has been exceptionally cathartic and helpful for them to allow them to actually look, hold on a minute. Hearing these young people, hearing their story or hearing what got a man or woman to the place he was in before he committed the crime, all of a sudden throws another light on it. And so for us, prisons work, family work, aftercare work, all of that is part and parcel, but mindful always that for every man in prison, for every woman in prison, there's a victim or a number of victims on the outside. And so while our focus primarily is on perpetrators and offenders, it's never at the exclusion of people who have been victims of crime as well. So for me, it's been a joy, and it's a joy and a privilege to not only oversee that work, but to watch and to see just how the staff, how the volunteers have developed the tasks and the jobs that they've been given to do. And like we're sitting with the football woman here this afternoon, as she's favourably known in prison, Joanne gets called all sorts of things, and not necessarily all of them broadcastable, I'm sure. But I can broadcast the
Joanne's
fact
delighted for you to say that.
Thank you.
I can broadcast the fact that she's known as a football woman, and they absolutely love that whole thing around being able to have a game of football in the afternoon and evening, early evening, expend a bit of energy, and then have a bit of Jaffa cakes and oranges, and somebody maybe share a testimony, somebody share something from scripture. So all of a sudden, it is all about offering these guys, there is another way. Prison fellowship is about that. It's not just, you broke the law, that's where you have to stick. You can move forward, and there's hope and there's opportunity to do that. So my job is to try and carry that forward and encourage folk to do it.
All together. Well, then just going to, we have had an opportunity as Glenabbey Church, I think, to go down and visit your centre in Belfast, and I would have to say, just we had a fabulous night as a church down with your staff team, who I would have to say just all spoke so incredibly passionately across the whole range of what's going on in the prisons, with with no notes, and just very much spoke from the heart. So I think in any of the conversations we've had with any of your team, Robin, I would have to say those have been hugely encouraging. So thank you for that. Maybe a couple of things to pick up on. So I know that you have a mission coming in the not too distant future. If maybe Robin, or is that one of the other teams going to?
Mission's running.
Robin, you pick that up.
Mission is running at this moment in time. We're halfway through it.
Oh, okay.
We started Monday evening, so it runs in McGilligan usually this week in May.
Yes.
Obviously subject to stuff going on. But so basically we're allowed to invite guest speakers in, somebody maybe share a word testimony, somebody sing. And the prison have been so supportive in allowing men to come out to the little church in the prison. And they basically walk across to the meeting and hear that, and returning in 45, 50 minutes of a meeting every night for a week. And we've just been really, we were there, Joanne and I were there on Tuesday evening, and it was great just to see the men coming along, men who ordinarily may never darken a church door, or if they did, it will be under some other guys while it was a funeral or a wedding or something like that. But these men genuinely came along, and to be honest, for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, they sat, they listened, they responded. If there was a question asked, they responded to it. And afterwards, there was a couple of conversations that I was aware of anyhow that took place. And these are great opportunities just to say to men, look, hold man, there's a different way to live. There's a better way to live. And that we think and we know comes from Christ. And the guys sharing their stories are telling what life was like for them beforehand, and how they arrived where they are today. And those stories, as we all know, everybody's story is different. Some of them are very easy to listen to. Others, there's more pain involved in them. But the wonderful thing is these guys have identified with them and respect what they hear. And that's the big deal from all of the time I've been in jail. The big deal is that whenever you put someone at the front to speak, the respect, the listening, the singing is incredible. When these guys start to sing and somebody's leading worship at the front. So yeah, so we're 2 more nights left. Tonight and tomorrow night. So we are grateful for the opportunity and the privilege to do that.
And certainly a super opportunity for folks to pray, and I suppose even for the legacy. By the time the podcast goes out, that'll probably be on the final day, but an opportunity to pray for the legacy of what's been heard as well into that. Okay, so thank you. I know that there are a small number of people in Glenabbey Church probably who have had the opportunity of whether maybe serving on your board or volunteering with you, but I suppose one of the principal areas, I'm just thinking that we have the opportunity as a church to get alongside the work of Prison Fellowship would be Christmas Hope. Would anybody like to maybe tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So Christmas Hope is our annual Christmas project, funny enough, and we deliver food hampers and toy parcels to families of prisoners in need across the country. I don't remember the figures off the top of my head. Robin, do you remember what we... just to put him on the spot?
So we had 516 hampers, and 627 or 29 parcels of toys.
Yeah, the toy figure's more familiar to me because that's
Huge.
my area.
The toy woman.
Yeah, I stopped being the football woman and start being the toy woman about November. So long before November actually. So we get donations from churches who support us, like yourselves, whether those are physical donations of food items or toys that we very specifically ask for and request certain things, or whether that's financial donations, and then we bring them to a centre and we pack and prepare all the hampers and all the toy parcels. And the toy parcels are prepared for each individual child, so it's not just a, that might do that child. They're probably around that age. It's very carefully, looked through and thought, oh well, he's 5, so we'll give him this. And each gift is selected, and there's a Christian book that goes into the gifts as well as a selection box. And recently, actually, we had somebody who said to one of our family workers, the book was the best bit of the parcel. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? That the books are going into the hands of the kid. I think it's McDonald's who recently have said that, I think, is it 1 in 5 children don't have a book in their home or something? So to any book, let alone a Christian book. So what it is to put a book into these parcels is amazing. So so that's what we do, and then they're distributed by a massive team of volunteers who take them all over the country and who help us pack them as well, and then deliver them all across the country. And I know that's when Glenabbey have been involved in the past, and it's a lovely thing to do. It's a lovely thing to arrive at somebody's door and arrive with this big box of groceries. I always say I have a wee hamper for you, and you open the boot and it's not wee at all and you're sort of struggling to carry it, but a hamper and toys for the kids, and just some of the feedback you get. We'd one lady who said to our aftercare worker one year that had she not been able to get the toys, that she had no idea what she was going to do. She was considering going out and stealing them, and you just thought, wow, like if we're able to stop anything like that happening, or if we're able to take away somebody's fear that there's going to be no gifts for their kids on Christmas Day. So yeah, it's amazing just the opportunities we have with that. And then the hampers allow our family workers then in the new year to ring round all those individuals and offer them continued support going forward with Prison Fellowship. So yeah, it's a great work.
And also a lot of the toys that we deliver out, it's from Daddy. Too. It's from the guys inside, so the kids go, Mum, look what Daddy got me too. So it keeps that connection too, and that means so much to the guys in there. That's priceless. We had a guy one year who, again, God was at work. His daughter got the exact toy that she wanted, that she had told her daddy that she wanted, and she got this toy, but Joanne didn't know what it was. Joanne happened to put this toy in, and she phoned her daddy crying, you got me, mighty, I told you. He was in tears when he told me. He says, you've no idea what that's done for me, the difference. So it's just, God works in, like I say, in all of these wee bits. And yeah, it's powerful.
Oh, amazing. And I know we have at church, it's been a fabulous opportunity for us to pitch in and enjoy that excitement, to be honest, over that Christmas period as well. So thank you for allowing us in and allowing us to help out just a wee bit probably in that way. But whenever we're thinking maybe about sort of ways for help, and I know volunteer word was mentioned there, I'm sure it's like any organisation that have the privilege to chat to. You have a certain and probably quite a small staff team, but I'm sure you have a much larger volunteer base. So what does that look like, and what opportunities are there for people to get involved?
We have a small staff team. There's 11 of us now, which is quite scary in a sense. But we also have a volunteer base, just over 100 volunteers. And those folk give us hours upon hours of time. It's so many different ways, whether that's in the prison or with the guys on the outside, with families, Christmas Hope, football, some of the life plan groups that they take. There's so many fantastic opportunities for folk. We've tried, and maybe not that successfully, but we've tried to do some letter writing, a skill that obviously is disappearing rapidly. But nonetheless, that is an invaluable communication with somebody in jail, particularly if they've nobody, and all of a sudden just something to write a letter can make a difference. The other big part, and a very valuable part of volunteering and supporting Prison Fellowship is prayer. We often say, PF, that's what's shortened to in jail, that's what's shortened to by us. But PF, obviously Prison Fellowship, it stands for prayer first. At the end of the day, none of this is possible if it wasn't for people praying and praying through situations in many instances that they know very little information about. Because at the end of the day, they're praying for Johnny or Sean or Terry or Breda or whatever it happens to be. They don't have all the detail. But the reality is these guys are sitting in the front line. What do you say to someone sitting across a bed, or across a table, in a visiting area? I've just got 18 years. I've just been told my wife, my partner, my mother is dying of cancer. I'm serving a 7-10-year sentence, etc., and many, many other things. And trying to come up with words in those situations can be very difficult. And so people who pray are an invaluable resource. And that is vital for us. At the end of the day, with the knowledge, we have 11 prayer groups around the country. We know that those people are faithfully praying. They're asking for updates. They're wanting to find out what's going on. When staff and volunteers visit them, they're able to give them a little bit of information. But the reality is, to watch people who remember month in, month out, it is almost a scary prospect to go to some prayer groups, because when you walk in there, some of those people are going to say, can you tell me what's happened to such and such? And all of a sudden your brain's 100 mile an hour trying to remember what was the scenario, what was the story, because these are monthly prayer requests. There's something new coming. So for us, prayer is vital as well. So people volunteering, people praying, people giving. You get, I think, very much acknowledge our appreciation to Glen Abbey and the folks in Glen Abbey for their financial support for the work. At the end of the day, this is only possible because God has made it possible, and He uses people in this church and others like them to financially support that work. Because at the end of the day, there's a growing number of people and groups that no longer want to have anything to do with the spread or the proclamation of the gospel. And I often say to folk who are maybe not Christians, would maybe in the outskirts of it all think, how do you just get money? Why do you just get money? The reality is a lot of what we do is practical. Cup of coffee, a listening ear. We're not ramming the Bible down somebody's throat. As somebody once said, if you ram the Bible down my throat, you're only going to choke me. But the other side of it, you build a relationship. That takes time. That could be weeks, that could be months, that could be years. And so we have to ensure that there's somebody there going forward. It's not just sufficient to have somebody to do a few weeks of a course, as valuable as that is, or a life's plan for a few months. You need people to keep going. And that's in the good times, but it's as equally valuable in the more difficult times. So when somebody falls, when somebody you've been working with has fallen off the wagon, the easiest thing in the world is to move on. The more difficult and indeed the more necessary piece, I believe, is getting back and saying, you know what, we're still here. The 70 times 7 rule applies, I think, in that situation very, very much. How many times do you keep going back? You keep going back. Yeah. You don't count. And so for that side of it, volunteering, funding to make those things possible is essential. So yeah, those are three of the main ways in which folk can get involved. There'll be other little nuances along the way. I don't know how many footballers are listening, but I'm sure Joanne will be quite happy to talk to football potentials out there as well. I know Mr. Klopp's gone, there's vacancies out there, but at the same time, there's a vacancy maybe or two up at Hydebank Wood Football Club in the next few weeks. So keep in touch.
To be able to help with those sorts of things. So,
absolutely.
Look, I mean, if this is resonating with people who are listening, and we've mentioned obviously keeping informed in relation to prayer, opportunities to volunteer, specific of the football there, or support financially. How best do people access that information or get in touch?
Likely the easiest thing to do is to go on the website. So pfni.org will give you the link. There's a contact form there. Send us an email and we will happily get in touch with folk. Likely be Grace, one of our volunteer coordinator, who will make that contact. But at the end of the day, that's the easiest place. Even just for prayer information, you don't need to do anything other than go on the website, and it's updated every month. So there's a regular supply of information there. Or give us a call. We still have a thing called a telephone. Despite many companies deciding to get rid of it, we still have one. And you'd be more than welcome to give us a call and talk to us, or ask to meet us. Come and see the centre. Some of you folk have been there. Maybe some of you weren't able to make it. We'd be happy to make another pot of coffee and have a chat if folk want to come along.
Brilliant.
And as Robin's saying there, just about prayer, how essential it is. With prayer, it's just blessed us so much in the prison. See the favour and the doors we've had opening and the opportunities we've had thanks to prayer. It's powerful. And again, as Robin says, some of these guys wouldn't have, came to church bar. As a lot of them, I've said to them, and they would agree, maybe prison has been the best things happen to you, because it's a reboot. They're sort of sitting and rethinking, and they're going, you know what? And in 7 years that I've been there, I have never once asked someone, can I pray with them? And they've said no. They'll maybe say, look, I don't believe, or, whatever. But they'll go, yeah, go ahead. So the guys are very open. And like I say, the life plan groups, we could still pray for those. These are guys that are just coming to ask questions. The questions we've all asked. If there's a God, why does this happen? And once we get past as the UFOs and the dinosaur questions, the guys are genuinely curious, and they're coming back with questions that they're interested and they're listening. So the life plan groups are huge, and like I say, there is a hunger in the prisons to know the gospel. So again, prayer is it's essential for
I think too, we've been talking a lot about our role as prison workers, but we have family workers who go, to people's doors, and they don't know what they're going to. Sometimes people say to us, must be so frightening going into prison, but the reality is we're on camera 90% of the day, 95% of the day. We're surrounded by prison officers, alarms, you name it. We're relatively safe to an extent, yeah. Dean's not sure, he's looking at me a bit funny. Maybe. We are. But our family workers are arriving at people's doors, and they've no idea who's behind the door, what sort of form they're in, if they've taken any sort of substance, who else might be in the house, and all those things. And so we really value your prayers for every member of our team and every volunteer and everybody who is involved, because really we're just asking God to guide and direct our steps and to keep us and our volunteers and all the people involved safe as they carry out those duties day by day, and particularly our family workers, who I think sometimes can sort of be, people think, prison's where the danger is, but actually probably they're more open to things on the outside.
Okay, thank you for that.
And obviously family is one of the strongest keys for keeping a man or a woman on the rails when they come back outside of prison again. And one of those vital building blocks that's necessary. And so, yeah, absolutely family work. And the other bit of it is coming for the released man or woman coming out, the aftercare work. So post-release, that's another big chunk of re-establishing men that have maybe spent only a few months in prison. But equally, those that have spent a long-term time in prison, the readjustment is quite stressful. And perception that people are watching you, people know all about you. You now know that's not the case. We pass so many people in the street in the day, we don't know who they are, but the perception is that everybody knows them, or they have prison tattooed across their forehead or whatever it is. So for us, there's so many ways. And I suppose as a church, and I'm thinking in the church collective at this point, there's great opportunities if a man or a woman in your community wants to get along to church. Would you be willing to walk that journey with them? Because ultimately, it's not going to be 2 or 3 Sundays. It's going to be longer term. But the joy of having somebody just come along and sit in a service with you, get a coffee with them, start on a journey that maybe a young Christian man or woman has come to faith. Never mind the challenges they bring. Those are special times. Special times. So yeah, vital relationships are established and built, often built in the most unlikely places with the most unlikely people, but they are great opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are drawing certainly to the conclusion, I think, of our time together. Probably just a little open question: is there anything else that you'd hope to touch on today that we haven't had the opportunity to as yet? And I'm just looking around. So, and if the answer to that is no, and we've covered what we'd hoped to over the course of the day, I know from my perspective that has been super informative. It's great to just spend that bit more time, hear a little bit about your personal stories as well. So thank you. It's great to get the opportunity to feel that we know you better, and certainly to hear about the work of Prison Fellowship and the passion that you guys have for it as well has been quite infectious. So thank you, Joanne, thank you, Dean, and thank you, Robin, for spending time on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you.